Welcome to 6 for 60, the show where I tell you 6 things I love about Star Trek in honor of the 60th anniversary of the franchise. So tonight is episode 31, and it's all about my favorite villains in the Star Trek universe. This is going to be a super short video because I think I have talked about all of these folks or groups at some point already. So, just jumping right into it. Number one, the Borg from the book series. So I won't go into detail because I've talked about them multiple times, how wonderful they were in the books, that they had a great um, origin story and a beautiful, just really satisfying ending and incredible storytelling in the middle. If you read it, you will absolutely forget about the Borg and Picard and TNG and DS. You'll just forget about all the other versions of the Borg. Um, Two, the Breen, again from book series that I've already talked about. So much more complexity in their society, just amazing again. And what you've been delivered on screen so far has been, nice. um but they're kind of just watery in a TV series, but that's okay. Still great for what we got, still wonderful if you haven't experienced them in the books. um they do all the things that big groups of villains are supposed to do. They're kind of this, both the Breen and the Borg, for fierce warriors, great numbers, an air of mystery about them. They present, um, they do all the bad things, so the Federation can be the good guys. They do what villains are supposed to do, so. Okay, but number 3 on my list is, of course, Khan Noonien Singh. Just loved him. Of course, we've got the original series where we're introduced to him in Space Seed. And then, of course, my absolute favorite Star Trek movie ever is The Wrath of Khan, because he was everything that a great villain should be. Um, Smart. They should be likable in some way. You should feel some level of empathy with them. They're just not evil for evil's sake, because if there's no way to connect with the villain, then they're just really one dimensional. But, saying he was how he was made, he was just doing what he was created to do. You do have to have a little bit of sympathy, empathy there for him. Uh, and they have to have conviction. His last breath. He went out still being truly 100% true to himself and his beliefs, and you have to respect that. So again, Khan, just amazing. So I will give myself, 5 lashes with a wet noodle in my last week, episode 30, when talking about Klingons. I did make less than favorable remarks about the JJ verse, and someone kindly pointed out that that's used, kind of using the term JJ verse is not looked upon favorably. So I will from now on try very hard to refer to it as the Kelvin timeline, since that's a more neutral and widely accepted term. So I want, folks to be comfortable and willing to engage. And I do like to hear other people's points of view. So I would thank that viewer and subscriber for pointing that out to me. So all the reasons why I love the Ricardo Montalban Khan are the reasons why I really did not care for the Kelvin timeline Khan. I thought they took a really well-written villain, and one, I didn't care for the actor they chose. And then the backstory to me was less moving. He didn't have that passion and that fire that original Khan had. Um, and we won't even get started on the magic blood. So when I say Khan, I mean prime universe, prime timeline, non-Kelvin timeline Khan. Okay. Fourth on my list is Gowron. You have to love to hate Gowron. He, again, he was true to his conviction from day one till Worf took him out. And he was loyal to himself. He did not care that he was getting hundreds of thousands of Klingons killed. He did not care that he was ending, 100 years of peace with the Federation. I probably have the timeline wrong, but still, you know, he had peace with the Federation. He didn't care that that was ending. His goal was to maintain his power and to get more power if he could. And he did not care who got hurt in the process. That said, he was a great bad Klingon, because even though he talked a good game, that man had no honor. He had zero honor, because if he did, he wouldn't have lied the way he did. Oh, he wouldn't have been in the council trading favors. It, he just did everything that was against the traditional Klingon sense of honor and support and faith, and um, you know, just he was a bad Klingon. He was a bad Klingon. But I still love to hate him. Love to hate him, because he really kind of reminded me in a way of Ferengi. So he wasn't trying to earn, profit, but he was trying to earn power. So he would wheel and deal and lie and scheme and do whatever was required to gain and maintain power. So Gowron was a good one to hate for me. Number 5 on my list, of course, and I had quite the time trying to figure out. I almost did 5 and 6 together to say that they were equally my favorite villains, but I think when it came down to it, there was just a little bit of difference, and I think I've mentioned it before in others. Conviction of the heart. So number 5 is Dukat. Dukat, again, much like Gowron, was just power hungry. Not a psychiatrist, psychologist, can't diagnose anyone. But if you believe all of the Reddit stories, he's a classic narcissist. That man loved himself, believed in himself to his own detriment. The level of deceit that he practiced with himself was just amazing. At every turn, he convinced himself that he was loved and cherished by his fellow officers, by the Bajoran people. And then when he received any conflicting data, and then he's just like, oh, well, these people are wrong, or I just haven't shown them enough reasons why they really should love me. They're just confused. That man was delusional from day one. Um, and I'll try and find the episode name and number for you. When he went to find his daughter that he had with a Cardassian woman, uh, I don't believe that he actually loved her. I think he was in love with the idea that she loved him. So, he was worried about his political career and everything. And, he'd lost command of DS9. He wasn't, doing really well at home or on Cardassia Prime. So here is someone who should fear him, should probably hate him, but she was willing to die because everyone had told her, look, your Cardassian father is not going to take a bastard half Bajoran child. So when he comes, he's going to kill you. And she was perfectly fine with that, knowing that he was doing it to protect himself. And I think that's what made him go, wow, she's willing to sacrifice herself for me. And so again, it was just feeding his ego. Um, and then, of course, later when he turns to the Pirates, that man till his dying moment loved himself and really believed that he deserved to be worshiped and adored by everyone, regardless of how many of their, fellow citizens he killed, no matter the torture, um, just the insanity, and one. But I keep saying, one of my favorite episodes of DS9. They're all my favorite, except for the ones with Vic. Not a real fan of those, but when he is serving the pirates and he has convinced these poor Bajorans to follow him, and he forces himself on that poor Bajoran woman, and then she becomes pregnant. And when the child is born, the child is very clearly of Cardassian lineage. And he says, "Oh, look, the Pares have transformed this child to prove to you that I really should be your leader." Absolutely, um, a piece of poop. Um, just you gotta love to hate the cot. And okay, so based on what I've said before, you already know who number 6 is. It's Kai Wynn. And the only reason that, okay, maybe these really weren't in order, but I guess they are in order. At the end, I don't think that she had real delusions about her place in the universe. Like clearly, I think Ducat really had something diagnosable. Um, I think Kai Wynn just deep in her heart was just a bad person. She was just a bad person, from trying to arrange the assassination of her political rivals to um, shutting down, when she tried to shut down the school, not because she really believed that, I don't think she really believed that they were teaching sacrilege. She just saw it as a great political stunt. It was a way for her to gain political power, to get publicity, to get on people's good side, on, the Bajorans' good side. She was just a really bad person. Even when, what was it called? The Costa Mojin, where the Pirates had to battle the prophets, and the outcome of that battle would determine whether or not Bajor would enter into 1,000 years of peace and prosperity. And they had set up, so Jake has a Paraith in him because I guess he was acceptable because he was worried about his dad, being the emissary, and really wasn't understanding all of this and was feeling put upon and wasn't thinking too favorably of the prophets at the moment. And of course, Kira and all of her faith was the vessel for the prophets. So, they're battling it out. They're having their little energy battle there. They think the station might get destroyed in the process because there's so much energy coming off of these two. And of course, everybody is worried about Jake. They're trying to save Jake, trying to save Kira too, but really trying to save Jake. And so they had set up something that would disrupt their possession of these two human bodies. And at the end, Kai Wen manages to stop the battle, and no one wins. And Kira, rightly so, says, look, I was willing to die, not just to serve the prophets, but to usher in 1,000 years of peace and prosperity for my fellow Bajorans. She was willing to give up her life, willing to do that. And Kai Wen is just like, well, now the emissary is going to love me because I saved his son. So she wasn't faithful to the prophets. Again, she was looking for a way to enhance her own position and power, because really 1,000 years of peace and prosperity on Bajor was not going to serve her. So again, just really, if you have to, and these are my 6, I would love to know your 6. I really feel that if we're looking for the worst villain in Star Trek, it was Kai Wen, because she was doing it just for her own self, for all the things she did. Even when she went to serve the Pirates, it was still all about her trying to find a way to get power and reign over others. And there's so many examples I could give. And I never really found a real redeeming arc for her, other than, just the smallest bit of just sympathy for her, just being sad for her that she was so willing, so desperate for power, for acknowledgement from others, that she would destroy her people. She would destroy the prophets who had looked out for her people. She would destroy their government. Remember when she was part of that coup, trying to take over the provisional government. And that's got to be a special, really, just incredibly deep amount of self-loathing and loneliness. And I don't really have the words to describe where she had to be in her own mind to think that sacrificing her people was worth a little bit of power for herself. So she's really a very tragic character when you think about her. You can't feel anything but just, deep sadness for the way she lived her life, and then ultimately how she died. So that's it. Super short tonight. Thank you. Or maybe not. I don't have my glasses on. I can't see how long I've been talking. But those are my 6 favorite Star Trek villains. I would love to know yours. Hopefully I will have another book review for you in about a week. Somebody the other week suggested a standalone book, not a series. So I'm gonna I ordered it, and hopefully it'll be here in 2 or 3 days, and I'll read it and, get back to you with another book review, and live long and prosper, dear friends. Let me know your villains.